Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Mr. OTM, aka Kyle, the founder here of the Main Event Wrestling Network. And I'm really glad we got together to do this because John Cena has meant a lot to my wrestling fandom. If you've listened to multiple of my podcasts, you have probably heard the origin story of how I became a pro wrestling fan, and it honestly has to do with John Cena himself. So it's very fitting that he is getting the proper retirement tour that he deserves. And honestly, I think it was overhated. It's just a popular opinion that you'll see online because the back end, he was doing some really good things and had some really good matches. And I think it definitely has elevated a few talents like Dom Mysterio and Gunther. But going back to what John Cena means to me as a wrestling fan, in 2011, I was living at my parents' place still, obviously, in high school. And I walked in on my brother watching Monday Night Raw. And for those who don't know my brother, he has Down syndrome. He's a huge fan of professional wrestling, always has been. And I just walked in and I saw John Cena and R-Truth at the time were feuding and going into Capital Punishment. And John Cena just caught my eye. I was like, man, okay, maybe this wrestling stuff is pretty cool. I like this John Cena guy. So I got into becoming a wrestling fan when he was feuding with CM Punk in the summertime. The infamous 2011 Money in the Bank is still my favorite match of all time. I don't think it'll ever be topped just for nostalgia purposes. I mean, it was the first pay-per-view that I bought, 2011 Money in the Bank. So just that feud itself with CM Punk really made me a fan of John Cena. And a lot of people, when they start becoming a fan of professional wrestling, they gravitate towards the good guys. And that's what I was doing right away when I became a fan. That was my good guy. That was the guy I was going to hitch my wagon to. And I'm glad I did, because John Cena, for what he did in the ring, in-ring stuff was probably not the best, but he still is the GOAT, the undisputed GOAT of the WWE. You can't prove me otherwise. But he just has meant a lot to me and everybody here, I think, at the Main Event Wrestling Network. So thank you, John Cena. I doubt you're going to ever see this video, but you do follow the On the Mark Wrestling podcast, so I never know. But you have been a huge inspiration to millions and millions of people, including myself and my brother. I got to experience 3 final moments with John this year, one at the Royal Rumble, the other one being at SummerSlam, and then, of course, unfortunately, at WrestlePalooza was the last time I got to see John Cena this year. But I'm grateful that I got to see John for 3 different times, 3 different PLEs here in 2025 for his retirement tour. So with that being said, that's all I really got. John Cena's the GOAT. If you follow me, you already knew that. But thank you, John Cena, for everything that you have contributed to the wrestling business. And we just appreciate all that you have done over the years.
What's up, Main Event Wrestling fans? It is I, Jay Gold, one half of the NXT Night Shift and 1/3 of the IW Guide. Now, with all that aside, we're bringing up our thoughts and I would say lists of best John Cena moments. And I am going to say one thing, and one thing only for me, was John Cena's feud with Umaga, the Samoan Bulldozer. Still, one of my favorite feuds of John Cena's. Showed a different side of him, showed him as more violent and more aggressive than he was in the months prior. And one of his better feuds as Umaga was just an animal in the ring, hitting each other with chains. Those extreme matches were so good. The last man standing matches, the matches with him and Umaga with the chains around his neck, the metal steps in the middle of the ring, everything was about that feud signified a different kind of John Cena. So if we're going to talk about moments and feuds for John Cena, things that really worked for me was his feud with Umaga. But there is no denying that John Cena is certainly the greatest, one of, if not the greatest of all time. And that feud for me was something I missed about him in the years prior and the years after, but he really solidified himself during that time. So, see you guys on the night shift, and look forward to John Cena's final match on Saturday night's Main Event.
And podcast that, as we kind of sit here, I feel like we kind of just have to sit for a moment and just kind of let it all sink in that Saturday is it. I mean, this tour has been teased for over a year and a half now, and we are at the last stop. What's kind of going through your mind right now?
Yeah, like you said, we'll talk Thursday. At least in my idea, we'll talk some top rivalries, top matches, top Cena moments of our lifetimes. But yeah, no, this is this is how people felt, growing up watching Shawn Michaels. This is how people felt growing up watching Stone Cold. You know, the name that shall not be named, right? This is how people, grew up with this. I grew up with John Cena.
Yeah.
My fandom started in about '98, and Cena was there in '02 and has not been there since '02. So, barring any injury or doing stuff, with movies, but he's always had at least one match a year. We got this farewell tour. There's been ups and downs, but it's when you look back at it, of just how much he has meant to wrestling in general. Went through a very turbulent time where wrestling wasn't cool, but John Cena was still there doing all of it, and I don't want to say keeping the company afloat, but being that every day, every show poster boy that he always wanted to be, and I can't imagine the immense pressure that he had to feel all the time. And he's come out and talked about that a little bit, but it's just, what else can you say? Like you said, he's the GOAT. I mean, when we look back on it, and just wrestling is, look, he's not the most technical wrestler in the world, and that's fine. But when you make a Mount Rushmore, if John Cena's not on your Mount Rushmore, you're not a wrestling fan.
Yeah, and I mean, I always go back to words that you said, even before we knew that the retirement tour was coming. It's just something you've always said on our show is we're going to miss him when he's gone. And it took us a very long time to get to the appreciation point of John Cena, because I mean, as you've said, he was the face of the company when wrestling was not necessarily the coolest thing in the world. And compared to some of his contemporaries from generations past, the internet has kind of helped to shape that opinion that a lot of people had of him for so long. And the fact that, wrestling fans are smart and they kind of have an idea of who it is that they're putting the machine behind. And John Cena is a guy that not only did they put the machine behind it, but he studied it inside out, probably knows it better than anybody that has graced the ropes of a WWE ring. JR has always said it best. The best ability that you can have in the WWE or in pro wrestling as a whole is availability. John Cena has always been that guy. He's never been problematic. He's never been somebody that the company couldn't count on. And that loyalty was rewarded. 17 world titles, Grand Slam champion, pay-per-views, movies.
11 years on top.
Yes. I mean, and that is unheard of. Terry didn't do that. Austin didn't do that. Dwayne didn't do that. It's just such a, he is such an important figure in this 21st century when it comes to when you talk about WWE, and it's just, I don't know, man. This is going to be a hard week. This is going to be a hard week because this is a send off well earned. Was it rocky? Yes, and we're going to get into a lot more of that this week. But I mean, there's nobody else that has deserved the send off that he's getting other than John Cena, like right now.
No, we'll probably never see another one. And I know everybody says that, but I don't think we will. Like a guy that, again, looked the way he looked, talked the way he talked, came in, legitimately carried a company for about 11 years. Like,
yeah,
they tried other people, didn't work. They tried
to go back to Big Match John.
Always went back to John. John was the guy that they could always count on. They always could lean on. When somebody else, when other people would take their ball and go home, or jump to another company, or whatever it may be, there was no scandals. There was no, was he kind of, I don't know. Like there was nothing. And we didn't touch on like his Make-A-Wish and everything. Like he was the face. I mean,
yes.
Always on.
Yes.
And seemed to thrive. So he's different. His name was the Prototype. I don't think we're gonna have another one.
Yeah. No, not at all. And yeah, again, tune in this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Champs Farewell, the official John Cena tribute
What's
show.
up, everyone? It's Dark Star Shady of the Main Event Network. You can see our logos all behind me, but I just wanted to share my favorite Cena moments. I don't necessarily have like one match that stands out or one moment of his in particular that really defines John Cena for me. It's more the way I grew up with him. I stopped watching wrestling for a long time, got back into it a few years ago, but I absolutely remember watching his first match, his first appearance on SmackDown, and then I was growing up a kid in California. I was into rap music, and then suddenly he came out as the Doctor of Thugonomics, John Cena. He was pretty much everything I was into at the time. I got really into wrestling, I was really into rap music, and seeing him just come out week after week, freestyling and rapping and just being a superstar that we could all look up to as kids. I don't know if at the time he was the John Cena we were supposed to look up to, but we did. I loved his matches. I loved seeing him become the U.S. champion, and that title to this day is still my favorite championship. When I grew up, I didn't have access to watching cable or watching pay-per-views. I only had SmackDown, and it was very rare that we got like an undisputed championship match on a Friday night SmackDown or Thursday night back then. But the U.S. title and the tag championships on SmackDown were defended regularly, and that's what I grew up on. I grew up on seeing classic matches with John Cena, with Eddie Guerrero, Carlito, all these guys in that mid-card scene. But to me, those were the champions I got to see on a weekly basis. Those were the champions that defended their titles. John Cena with his open challenges and answering Kurt Angle. Just back then, John Cena, his original title runs, that was wrestling for me. That was the actual, like, week in, week out, what I got to see, what I got to watch, what I got to learn on, what I got to, like, really shape my mindset as a fan. And even though I missed a lot of his middle, I've caught up on some videos here and there. John Cena was one of those guys at the beginning that you couldn't help but cheer for. And I do think his retirement run has been a little subpar, but it's really cool to watch the bookend of his career having been there at the beginning. I don't think we'll ever get another John Cena. I'm glad that he's in other media. He's an actor. Peacemaker's a great series. But in WWE, there will never be another like him.
Hey guys, it's 1/3 of the BWO Paperclip Mike here, and we are saluting the Unseen 17 as we come up to his retirement match at Saturday night's main event, and we're all sharing all our favorite moments and things about John Cena, and I would share a personal story. I was in the Army, early 2000s, and they had the announcement that they were doing the first SmackDown in Baghdad. And I didn't get to go to that show, but I was actually getting ready to go home on leave in the middle of the deployment. And I was at the PX buying snacks, so I was going to be stationed somewhere for a couple days. And there was a sign that said, meet WWE superstars, and I was going to figure I'd meet a couple. It ended up being the whole roster, including Vince McMahon, which is another cool story. But anyways, I was first in line, and I ended up waiting because of logistics and travel, because once again, you're in the middle of a damn war zone. 5 hours, because nobody knew when they were going to show up. I waited in line 5 hours, ended up eating most of my snacks. But the very first wrestler that came out was John Cena, and this was like less than 6 months before he won the U.S. title from Big Show at WrestleMania 20, so this is like early John Cena, mid-card, not like the face of the company, anything like that. This is just early John Cena, and I still remember to this day, the first thing he did was he came up to me, shook my hand, put his hand out first, shook my hand, and apologized for them running late, even though it wasn't their fault. And that kind of stuck with me, that somebody like that, especially on his position on the card, would do something like that. So I've never hated the dude. I've always rooted for the guy. Never did the whole boo John Cena because I just realized that he is a real dude, legitimately nice, kind guy. And salute.
Hey guys, Tim Vicious from Vicious Rants here, and Hard to believe we are now at the end of John Cena's career, and I gotta say, probably the biggest highlight of his career to me personally, outside of the Royal Rumble return that nobody ever expected, hands down, how he never once let the fans take over the show whenever he had a mic. And the fact that he was the guy that took the mantle after Steve Austin, going from the blood and guts and violence, flipping a bird, drinking beers, gratuitous sex, language, violence, all that stuff on TV to the squeaky clean to the squeaky clean TV PG type environment. And I dare say no one on that roster then or now could have carried that burden any way, shape, or form like John did. So thank you for everything you've done, John. Really appreciate it.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tino here, and on this part of the video for your boy Tino, I'm going to tell you my favorite moments of John Cena, my favorite matches, and some memories that I had. Because as you guys know, if you do know your boy Tino, you know dang well we are the biggest John Cena fan of all time. He's the reason why I started watching. The first memory I remember having is going over to my neighbor's house on that SmackDown. It was on the UPN way back in the day. I'm aging myself. I'm sure that many of you may not know that, or it was right, the UPN, I think it was, right? But he was on the UPN. He was on SmackDown. I remember watching that. I don't remember watching his first match with Kurt Angle. Obviously, went back and watched it now. But from there on out, from the 2005 Royal Rumble, I always tell everybody I always started watching in the Royal Rumble 2005 is always my first memory of wrestling when John Cena and Batista were in the Royal Rumble and they had their double finish, and then they went and Vince tore his Achilles and his knees, and it was a funny sight. But my man John Cena, since then, it's been hustle, loyalty, respect, never give up. You know, I live by that. And John Cena has just been a big mentor. And honestly, if it wasn't for John Cena, I don't think I'd have the taste in the things like music, songs. I guess music and songs are the same thing, but I've seen all of his movies. I've, everything to do with John Cena. I have everything to be a part of because he has been my guy, as people's favorites are The Rock, Austin, Hogan. My dad's favorite growing up was The Rock. So when Rock and Cena had their once in a lifetime, that will always be another big moment and memory for me, because that time around when John Cena and The Rock had their 2-year rivalry, once in a lifetime, and then it became twice in a lifetime. Me and my dad spent a lot of time watching the John Cena and The Rock rivalry at the time, and it will always just be one of those things and one of those moments that I never forget. And throughout the years, we've seen John kind of slow down. He hasn't wrestled as much. And if you actually go back and look, he has, we saw him go through the period when he faced The Rock, when he faced Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Batista. He had all those matches. And then I kind of feel like when he had The Miz, he had The Rock twice, he faced Bray Wyatt, Rusev, and stuff like that. He kind of we didn't see him as much. We had him in the 2015. For the U.S. Open Challenge, the draft, he had all of that, AJ Styles, matches, and everything else. But, for me, my favorite time of John Cena was always the basic thugonomics, when he would come out, rap, make fun of whoever he was making fun of, and wear his jerseys and everything. And I remember having a few jerseys specifically because he was the one that was wearing them. He did wear a Walter Payton jersey. You guys know how big of a Bears fan I am out there. Bear down for life. It was bad loss to the Packers would that be almost a week ago by now at the time of this coming out. But, always supported my guy and always support my teams. But that was always my favorite when John Cena wore those jerseys. When he came out with the chain, funny story also for you. I actually went to my school picture. I think it was 7th or 8th grade. And I wore a John Cena shirt, and he had his chain on, he had his jean shorts, he had the spinner belt, and he had a shirt on. Well, I wore that to the picture day. Well, my mom saw that. Didn't go over very well. And if you remember back in school, they had picture retake day. Well, I had to go to take picture retake day, and not wear a John Cena shirt. And my dad always got blamed for that, for allowing me to wear a John Cena t-shirt to the school pictures. And honestly, if I think about it, John has had some part of my life from the beginning, from the 2008 Royal Rumble when he came back and returned, and that entered number 30 and won the match. I always love to tell this story about how when I was watching that, I think I was a young lad at 9-10 years old, 2008. So or was I 11? Yeah, I was 11 going to be 12. And John Cena comes out, and as you guys obviously know, biggest John Cena fan. We had friends over, we had family over at the time. I literally went like this. I looked at the ground. I put a pillow over, like, on the side. I looked down. I looked at the pillow. I went like this. I said, "You can't see me." And one of my dad's friends or cousin, probably my cousin at the time, honestly, or a friend of mine, not my dad's friend, they moved the pillow. Well, the great mind that I have of not paying attention, because I still do that, I did not see that they moved the pillow, and I do the 5-knuckle shuffle, go like that, and hit the elbow and hit my bone right there. So it's always a funny moment because I look back at it now, and I was so excited. It was one of those things you guys know back in 2008. We didn't think John was going to come back that soon. He came back after like 4.5 months, and it was supposed to be a 9-month, 1.5 year, 2-year injury. And he came back and surprised everybody. He didn't win that WrestleMania 24 match at WrestleMania against Triple H and Randy Orton, but that's okay. John, he's had a lot of great WrestleMania matches. He's had a lot of not great WrestleMania matches, But I will always say my favorite WrestleMania match of his was WrestleMania 20. I want to say 22 because it was in Chicago and I love the gangster and everything. But that match between him and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23 in Detroit in Ford Field was an absolute banger. I mean, at one point, I could probably still do it. Go and name every single opponent that this man has had at WrestleManias. And there's a lot of people we didn't see him fight at WrestleManias, but there's also a lot of people we saw him fight throughout his careers. And the fact that we are seeing him go, and if we go back to look at 2005 at SummerSlam when Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio had the custody for Dominic match, in that ladder match that we always talk about here on the channel. Great Brown Hope, I know how much you love your man, Rey Mysterio. Shout out to the Great Brown Hope for that. But if you look back and now, all these years later, John has wrestled Dominic Mysterio at John's last PLE match. And it's just one of those full circle moments that is so cool. You could say the heel run sucked. You could say you didn't like the farewell tour. You could say whatever you want. You could say it was a money grab. You could do this and that. And we did see that in the interviews that he had come out this past week on Monday and everything, and on the Chris Van Vliet show, that he did want to have 200 dates, over 220 dates, I think, to be exact. And, it was one of those things that it would have been cool to see him come out. But WWE said they only needed him for 36 days. And, like I said, it would have been cool to see him come out for 220-something dates. But then it might have just got stale and might have got repetitive. And they really might not have been able to do too much of what they would have been able to do. John Cena will always be one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And as we continue to talk, I do want to show you guys, because, we are also a collector. So I wanted to show you guys, and I wanted to show off my John Cena collection here on a quick video in the top left corner or right corner, depending on which way you are. But we got a bunch of great John Cena figures from WrestleMania 24 throughout his career. We got that ringside exclusive one, my favorite one from Royal Rumble 2007. You guys might, I'll move over here, but that's my favorite one with the blood and stuff like that. We got the new ones. We got all the belts that Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, Respect John Cena has won throughout the years. Yes, he has. And then we go and take a look at other figures that I got. I got a Kmart exclusive. If you have seen other collection episodes, you guys may have already seen these figures. But if you haven't, I wanted to show you guys my quick little section that I have for John Cena. And continue our celebration here of this episode being debuted. It is Saturday, the day of Saturday night's main event. So we are less than 12 hours. We're less than 6 hours. We're less than 4 hours away to Mr. John Cena being retired, and it's just so sad. We got the NWO. We got the prototype. And then we got, as we were talking about jerseys, one of my favorite ones, his orange basketball jersey. And there we go. I wanted to, just like I said, show you guys a quick video of my collection that I have. Loose figures, other figures in boxes and everything else. But I could sit here and go on and on and on and talk about John Cena. We could do a whole episode, and we very well might. I mean, at some point, do a whole episode, or just come and hang out tomorrow on Tino's time for the TTW episodes. We'll recap Survivor Series, or Survivor Series. I'm sorry, Saturday night's main event, and we'll talk about a lot of things. But just some of my favorite moments: John Cena and CM Punk at WrestleMania, at Money in the Bank 2011. John Cena and Edge at Unforgiven. John Cena and Umaga at the Royal Rumble 2007. John Cena's had so many great matches. Underrated one, we watched it on the retro episode. John Cena and Shawn Michaels Raw, April 23rd, during WrestleMania 23. Also, Rey Mysterio and John Cena, when Rey Mysterio won the title for all of 2 hours, and then John took it back from him. That night was bad. I was sad for that. I kind of was mad John won that night. That might be one of the only nights that I might have been mad that John Cena won. But as I said, guys, we could go on and on and on. And I'm sure there's a lot that I missed. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot I'm going to talk about as the week goes on and as we've already talked about. But appreciate you guys coming here and hanging out with me and hanging out with the entire Main Event Network crew. Shout out to all the people that did come and participate in this video as we all shared our favorite moments and matches from John Cena's career. But guys, we've been here for 10 minutes. We'll be live over on Tino's time. All the other great content creators will be live. Make sure to go check out the Main Event Mixer. Go and check out the Main Event Network, all of them. Go and check out the ticker below. The OTM guys, they're on their way to 500 and all that good stuff. Based on me, because I am editing this video, I am the end of the show. So guys, we will see you next time over here on the Main Event Network, over on Tino's time. Make sure you go follow all other social medias from everybody that was a part of this video, and you will see him now. Guys, we'll see you next time.